Welcome back to the deep dive. Grab your snorkel or maybe a full-on submarine for this one, because today we are tackling an absolute beast of a topic.
It really is a beast. It's good to be back.
And I mean that quite literally. We are diving into the animal kingdom.
Yeah, this is one of the most extensive, diverse, and frankly just beautiful chapters in all of biology.
It is, but it's also, let's be honest, it's one of the most terrifying chapters for anyone preparing for Neet. I was looking at the notes before we started, and we are talking about over 1 million described species.
Oh, easily.
That is a lot of Latin names.
Yeah.
That is a massive amount of characteristics to keep straight. And I think for a lot of you listening, this chapter just feels like a giant wall of rote memorization, just staring at lists of phyla until your brain turns to mush.
It certainly can feel that way, especially if you approach it as, a phone book, just trying to memorize A to Z. But the goal of our deep dive today is to shift that perspective entirely for you.
Right. To get away from the flashcard anxiety.
Exactly. We want to move away from brute force memorization and towards understanding the logic of classification, because there actually is a logic to it.
It's not just random chaos, even if it looks like it.
Not at all. Once you see the patterns, the evolutionary upgrades, if you will, that take us from a stationary sponge all the way to a sprinting cheetah or a diving blue whale, it stops being a random list. It starts becoming a story. It's a story of architectural innovation.
I really love that phrase, architectural innovation.
Oh.
So our mission today is to decode Chapter 4, the animal kingdom. We are going to break down the basis of classification, the blueprints, and then walk through the phyla from the absolute simplest to the most complex.
And crucially, we are going to highlight those specific nitpicky details that examiners absolutely love to use to trap you on the test.
Precisely. We need to look at this like a taxonomist does. When a biologist finds a new creature in the deep sea, they don't just guess what it is. They run it through a checklist of features.
We call this the sorting hat of biology.
I am so ready to get sorted. Let's start with the blueprints. The source material lists fundamental commonalities, arrangement of cells, symmetry, column. Let's start at the very bottom. The levels of organization. This seems like the most basic way to sort a living thing, right?
It is the absolute foundation. So rule number 1 for you to remember, all members of the kingdom Animalia are multicellular. That is the baseline.
Right.
You won't find a single-celled animal here. Those are protists. But the big question is, how do those cells interact? Like, how well do they play together?
Are they a cohesive team or just a crowd of individuals?
Exactly. In the simplest forms, like the sponges phylum Porifera, you have the cellular level of organization. Imagine a construction site where you have a bunch of workers. You've got bricklayers, electricians, plumbers.
But they aren't talking to each other.
Right. They are all in the same building. They are all working, but they're acting as loose aggregates.
So sponges are kind of the freelancers of the animal world.
That's a great way to put it. There is some division of labor. Some cells filter food, some reproduce, but they haven't formed true tissues. They are independent contractors just sharing an office space.
Okay, so that's the basement level. Then we take the elevator up to the coelenterates, or cnidarians.
Here, the arrangement becomes more complex. Cells that perform the same function start to group together. They form a union, basically. This is the tissue level of organization. Now you have actual distinct tissues doing specific jobs.
And then we level up again.
We do. When we get to phylum Platyhelminthes, the flatworms, we see the organ level. Tissues are grouped together to form organs specialized for particular functions. So now you don't just have muscle tissue, you have a structure that acts as a rudimentary organ.
And finally, the penthouse suite of biological organization.
The organ system level. This is found from annelids, the earthworms, all the way up to chordates, like us. This is where organs associate to form functional systems. You have a digestive system, a circulatory system, a reproductive system.
It's a fully staffed corporation with distinct departments interacting with each other.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the hierarchy. Cellular, tissue, organ system. That makes a lot of sense. Now, within the organ system level, the text points out that not all systems are created equal. Specifically, it mentions that digestive and circulatory systems can vary a lot in complexity.
Yes, and this is a classic exam trap, so pay attention here. Take the digestive system. You might assume digestive system implies a mouth and an exit, right?
I would certainly hope so. Otherwise, things get a bit awkward.
Well, in Platyhelminthes, the flatworms, the digestive system has only a single opening to the outside of the body.
Wait, one opening.
Yes. It serves as both the mouth and the anus.
Yet is horrifyingly efficient.
It is. We call that an incomplete digestive system. It works, but it really limits you. You can't eat a second meal until you've completely finished processing and ejecting the first one.
One-way street with a dead end.
Right. Now, a complete digestive system, which we see in Asymmetries and all the higher phyla, has two separate openings, a mouth and an anus. It's a tube within a tube plan. It's much better for continuous energy intake.
I will definitely never take my complete digestive system for granted again. Now, what about the circulatory system? Open versus closed.
This is really about plumbing. In an open-type circulatory system like you see in arthropods, blood is pumped out of the heart and the cells and tissues are directly bathed in it. Imagine a hot tub where the water just sloshes over everyone.
Okay. Sounds a little messy, but it works.
It works for them. But in a closed type, like in annelids and chordates, the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters, arteries, veins, capillaries. It's a contained pipe system.
Which allows for higher pressure and faster transport.
Exactly. It's much more efficient for larger or more active animals.
Got it. Okay, let's move to the next sorting hat feature. Symmetry. This one seems pretty visual.
It is huge for visual identification.
Yeah.
Imagine you have a creature on a cutting board. Hypothetically, of course.
Of course. No animals were harmed in the making of this deep dive.
Right. So if you slice through the center and you cannot get two equal halves no matter the angle you choose, it is asymmetrical. This is mostly the sponges. They were just irregular blobs.
Simple enough. They have no master plan.
Now imagine a pizza or a bicycle wheel. Any plane passing through the central axis divides the organism into two identical halves. This is radial symmetry.
And the text lists coelomerates, twinophores, and echinoderms here. But why would an animal want to be shaped like a pizza?
Think about how they live. If you have radial symmetry, you usually don't move much, or you just drift. You are sessile or planktonic. Since you don't know where food or danger is coming from, it's best to be equally receptive on all sides.
Yeah.
You have 360-degree coverage.
Oh, that makes total sense. You're basically a surveillance tower.
Precisely. But if you want to move, if you want to hunt, chase, and explore, you need to know where you are going. You need a front and a back. This leads to bilateral symmetry. The body can be divided into identical left and right halves in only one plane, down the middle.
And this applies to annelids, arthropods, and pretty much everything else, all the way up to humans.
Yes. And bilateral symmetry usually comes with something called cephalization. That's the development of a head. If you are moving forward, you want your sensory organs, your eyes, ears, nose at the front end so you can sense the environment before your body actually enters it.
Okay, so radial is for sitting and waiting, bilateral is for moving and shaking. Now this next one I know trips up a lot of people, the germinal layers. Diploblastic versus triploblastic. This sounds like complex embryology.
It is embryology, but we can simplify it. These layers are the primary tissues in the embryo that eventually form all the tissues and organs of the adult animal. Think of them as the primary colors of the body.
Okay, so diploblastic, di means two.
Correct. You have an external ectoderm, which is the outer skin, and an internal endoderm, the gut lining. But, and this is key for the exams, there is an undifferentiated layer in between called the mesoglea. It's jelly-like. It's not a true cellular layer.
So it's a sandwich with bread on top, bread on the bottom, and just jelly in the middle. No meat.
That's a really good analogy. You see this in Coelomerates, the Cnidarians. They are diploblastic.
When triploblastic means we add the meat to the sandwich.
We add the mesoderm. This
Yeah.
is the third layer, sandwiched right between ectoderm and endoderm. And this is a massive evolutionary leap. Platyhelminthes, all the way to chordates, are all triploblastic.
Why is the mesoderm such a big deal, though?
Because the mesoderm gives rise to muscles, the circulatory system, the skeletal system, and the reproductive system. Without a mesoderm, you just can't have complex organs. You can't have a heart. You can't have biceps. The mesoderm allows for real structural complexity.
So if you want to be more than a jelly bag floating in the ocean, you need to be triploblastic. Now, speaking of the mesoderm, that leads us directly to what might be the single most important classification feature for Neet, and honestly the one that causes the most headaches. The coelom.
Ah, yes, the coelom, the body cavity.
Please break this down so we never forget it.
I will do my best. Okay. The coelom is the cavity between the body wall, your skin and muscles, and the gut wall, your stomach and intestines. But here is the strict biological definition you have to remember. It must be lined by mesoderm on both sides.
So if you have a hole inside you, but it's not lined by mesoderm, it's not a coeloma.
Exactly. Let's break it down into the three categories you need to know. First, Acoelomates. The prefix A means without. The body cavity is completely absent. The space between the body wall and the gut is filled with solid tissue called parenchyma.
And these are the platyhelminths, the flatworms?
Right. They are solid. Think of a flatworm like a solid rubber doorstop. Because they have no internal cavity, they can't have complex organs that move or expand. Their internal organs are literally embedded in the tissue. This is actually why they are flat, to keep all their cells close to the surface for diffusion.
Okay. Acoelomate equals solid equals flatworm. Got it. Next.
The tricky one, Pseudocoelomates. Pseudo means false. In these animals, like Acoelomates, the roundworms, there is a body cavity, but it is not lined by mesoderm. Instead, the mesoderm is present as scattered pouches between the ectoderm and endoderm.
Scattered pouches. That is a very specific image.
Visualize it like this. If a true coelom is a properly lined room with nice wallpaper on all the walls, a pseudocoelom is a room where someone just threw random patches of wallpaper on the floor. It's a false coelom. It functions as a hydrostatic skeleton to keep the worm round, but it's not the true structure.
And finally, the actual coelomates.
The Eucoelomates, or true coelomates. Here, the cavity is fully lined by mesoderm on all sides. This includes annelids, mollusks, arthropods, echinoderms, hemichordates, and chordates.
Why is this cavity so important? Why did evolution work so hard to make it?
Think about your own heart beating or your stomach churning during digestion. Those organs need to move. They need to expand and contract. If you were solid inside, every time your heart beat, your whole body would ripple. The coelom creates a fluid-filled buffer zone. It allows your internal organs to grow and move independently of the outer body wall. It basically acts as a shock absorber.
That is a fantastic explanation. So, the coelomate flatworms have no room for activities. Pseudocoelomate roundworms have a messy, patched-together room. And the coelomates, from annelids and up, have a fully furnished suite.
Perfect summary.
We have two more blueprints before we get to the animals themselves: segmentation and notochord.
Let's do segmentation, also known as metamerism. This is when the body is externally and internally divided into segments with a serial repetition of at least some organs. The classic textbook example is the earthworm. You can literally see the rings on the outside, and inside, things like nerve ganglia and kidney-like structures called nephridia are repeated in each segment.
It's like a train with a bunch of identical cars.
Yes, exactly like that. It allows for modularity and much more precise movement control.
And finally, the notochord. This is basically the VIP pass to the chordate club.
It is the defining feature. The notochord is a mesodermally derived, rod-like structure formed on the dorsal side of the back during embryonic development. It provides structural support. This is the dividing line for the entire animal kingdom. If you have it at some point in your life cycle, you are a chordate. If you never form it, you are a non-chordate. And that includes everything from Porifera to echinoderms.
Okay, we have our blueprints, we have our sorting hat, we know about symmetry, Coelom, and germ layers. Now, let's go on a tour. We were starting at the bottom and climbing the evolutionary ladder. First stop is the non-chordates. Phylum Porifera, the sponges.
Porifera literally translates to pore bearers. These are the most primitive multicellular animals. They are generally marine, mostly asymmetrical. Remember our freelancer analogy. They are at the cellular level of organization.
And the text highlights one system in particular for sponges that is absolutely crucial for the exam: the water transport or canal system.
Yes. Do not confuse this with anything else. This is their absolute lifeline. Since sponges can't move to find food, they have to bring the world to them.
How exactly does the plumbing work?
Water enters through millions of minute pores called ostia in the body wall. It flows into a central cavity called the spongocoel, and then it exits through a single large opening at the top called the osculum.
So, ostia to spongocoel to osculum. In through the small holes all over, out through the big hole at the top.
Correct. And this pathway is everything for them. It brings in food particles, it brings in oxygen, and as it flows out, it carries away waste and carbon dioxide. It's a giant continuous filtration system.
But who is powering this pump? Water doesn't just flow on its own.
Excellent question. The power comes from the choanocytes, also known as collar cells. These are highly specialized cells that line the spongocoel and the canals. They have flagella, little whip-like tails that beat constantly to create the water current.
Choanocytes. That's a key term to circle in your notes. What about support? They aren't just squishy blobs of jelly, right?
No, they have a skeletal framework made of spicules, which are sharp needle-like structures, or spongin fibers, which are a softer protein.
And reproduction.
They are hermaphrodites. Sexes are not separate. Eggs and sperm are produced by the same individual, but they can also reproduce asexually by fragmentation.
What are the key examples to remember here?
Cycon is a classic, but you really need to remember Spongilla because it's a freshwater sponge. That's an important exception to the mostly marine rule, and examiners love exceptions. And then there's Euspongia, which is the common bath sponge.
Moving on up, we are upgrading to the tissue level. Phylum Coelenterata, which is also known as Cnidaria. Why do they have two names?
Coelenterata refers to the hollow gut, but Cnidaria is the much more descriptive name. It comes from Netoblasts or Cynocytes.
The stinging cells.
Yes. These are stinging capsules or nematocysts present on the tentacles. This is their main weapon. They use it for anchorage, defense, and capturing prey. It's basically a microscopic hypodermic needle loaded with a neurotoxin.
These guys have radial symmetry. They are diploblastic, and here we see that single opening digestive system we talked about earlier, the hypostome. But the really cool thing about cnidarians, the thing that feels like actual science fiction, is the body forms.
The polyp and the medusa. This is essential to understand. The polyp is sessile, it doesn't move, and it is cylindrical. Think of Hydra or Adamsia, the sea anemone. It's like a tube stuck to the ground with tentacles waving upwards.
And the medusa.
The medusa is umbrella-shaped and free-swimming. Think of Aurelia, the classic jellyfish, mouth facing down, tentacles trailing down.
And some of these species can actually switch between these forms.
Exactly. This is called metagenesis, or alternation of generation. It's not just growing up, it's changing body plans completely. In species like Obelia, the polyps produce medusa asexually. Then, those free-swimming medusae swim off, have sex, and produce new polyps sexually.
That is wild. It's like if a tree produced a bird, and then the bird flew away and laid an egg that grew into a tree.
That is, wow, a surprisingly accurate analogy. Yes, exactly like that.
I try. Now, the examples here seem really important because the common names are quite tricky.
Very tricky. Physalia is the Portuguese man of war. Adamsia is the sea anemone. Pinatula is the sea pen. Gorgonia is the sea fan. And Meandrina is brain coral. Notice how many of them are named after common objects. Pen, fan, brain. That really helps with visualization.
Next up is a small group that often gets confused with cnidarians. Phylum Conifera. The comb jellies.
They used to be grouped with cnidarians back in the day, but they are distinct. They are exclusively marine, still radially symmetrical, still diploblastic, but they don't have those stinging cells, the ctenocytes.
So how do they get around?
They have 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates. These little combs beat in unison to propel the animal through the water, hence the name comb jellies.
And they have a really special party trick.
Bioluminescence, the property of a living organism to emit light. In the deep, dark ocean, they pulse with light. It's really spectacular to see.
Okay, what about reproduction for them?
Sexual only. External fertilization. And they are hermaphrodites. The main examples to know are Pleurobrachia and Ctenoplana.
Now we get to the worms. And this is where I know students get mixed up. We have 3 phylas of worms almost back to back. Let's try to differentiate them really clearly. First up is Phylum Platyhelminthes, the flatworms.
Platy literally means flat. Think plate. They are dorso-ventrally flattened, like a leaf or a ribbon. And this is crucial because remember, they are Acoelomates. They are solid inside. Being flat keeps all their cells close to the outside environment for gas exchange since they don't have a circulatory system to move oxygen around.
And most of them are nasty little parasites.
Yes, mostly endoparasites found in animals, including humans.
Yeah.
Since they live inside a host's gut, they have specialized adaptations. They have hooks and suckers to latch onto the intestinal wall so they don't get flushed out with the digestive waste.
And how do they eat?
Well, some of them don't even have a digestive system. Taedimena, the tapeworm, it just absorbs nutrients directly from the host's digested food right through its body surface.
So it's just bathing in my lunch.
Essentially, yes. It lets you do all the hard work of digestion, and it just steals the profit.
That is disgusting, but fascinating. What about excretion?
This is a massive high-yield term, flame cells. These are specialized cells for osmoregulation and excretion. They are called flame cells because under a microscope, the flickering cilia look just like a tiny candle flame.
The examples.
Tomgenia, the tapeworm, Fasciola, the liver fluke, and the free-living one, Planaria, which is famous in biology for its high regeneration capacity. If you cut a planaria in half, you get 2 planaria.
Okay, from flat to round. Phylum Ashwaminthes.
The roundworms, circular in cross-section. If you slice them, you get a perfect circle. This is where we see the pseudocoelom, that false body cavity we talk about with the scattered pouches.
And unlike the flatworms, these guys have a complete digestive system.
Yes. a distinct mouth and anus. And specifically, you need to remember they have a well-developed muscular pharynx. That muscular throat is a key identification feature for exams.
And here we see distinct sexes for the first time.
Yes, they are dioecious, and usually the females are longer than the males. Key examples include Ascaris, the common roundworm, Eucoelomates, the filaria worm that causes elephantiasis, and Ancylostoma, the hookworm.
So quick recap for everyone. Platyhelminthes equals flat, solid, Acoelomate with flame cells. Ashlaminthes equals round, Pseudocoelomates with a muscular pharynx.
Exactly right.
Now we graduate to the higher non-chordates, starting with phylum Annelida.
Annelida comes from annulus, which means little ring. This refers to their metameric segmentation. These are the ringed worms.
And this represents a really big moment in evolution.
Huge. This is the first phylum we are discussing today with a true coelom, a legitimate, fully mesoderm-lined body cavity.
And they move quite differently, too.
Yes, they have both longitudinal and circular muscles. Longitudinal muscles shorten the body. Circular muscles make it thin and long. By alternating contractions of these muscles, they can actively crawl.
And the aquatic ones have little paddles.
Right. Nereus possesses lateral appendages called parapodia. They act like little oars for swimming.
This group also has a closed circulatory system, right? Blood in tubes.
Yes. Blood is confined to vessels, and excretion is handled by nephridia. This helps in both osmoregulation and excretion.
Samples.
Nereus, which is dioecious, meaning separate sexes. Pheretima, the earthworm. And Hirudinaria, the blood-sucking leech. Earthworms and leeches are monoecious, meaning hermaphrodites.
Next is the absolute heavyweight champion of the animal kingdom, phylum Arthropoda.
The conquerors. This is the largest phylum by a massive margin. Over 2/3 of all named species on Earth are arthropods. If you just blindly guess arthropod on a random species ID quiz, you have a 66% chance of being right.
That is mind-boggling. Why are they so incredibly successful? What is their secret weapon?
The chitinous exoskeleton. It's a literal suit of armor made of chitin. It protects them from predators, sure, but more importantly, it prevents water loss. This adaptation alone allowed them to conquer dry land in a way that soft-bodied animals simply couldn't.
And the name Arthropoda.
Arthros means joint. Poda means appendages. Jointed appendages. Think about wearing a rigid suit of armor. You need joints to actually move. These jointed legs allow for running, jumping, swimming, digging, flying. It provides incredible versatility.
Their body is divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. And their respiration seems pretty varied, too, looking at the notes.
It is. Evolution just threw everything at this group to see what stuck. They have gills for aquatic ones like prawns, book gills for the king crab, book lungs for scorpions, and a whole tracheal tube system for insects like cockroaches. They have adapted a breathing apparatus for literally every environment.
Excretion.
Malpighian tubules, another key term to memorize.
There are so many examples here. We should probably group them like the text does to make it manageable for study.
Good idea. First, economically important insects. Apis, the honeybee, bombyx, the silkworm, and Laxifer, the lacking insect.
Second group.
Vectors, the disease carriers. Anopheles, culex, and Aedes mosquitoes. You need to know these carry malaria, filariasis, and dengue, respectively. Third, the gregarious pest. Locusta, the locust. These are the ones that form massive swarms that destroy crops. And fourth, the living fossil. Limulus, the king crab. It's called a living fossil because its anatomy hasn't changed much in millions of years.
Okay, moving to the second largest phylum, Mollusca.
The mollusks. These are soft-bodied animals. They are unsegmented. They usually have a calcareous shell, but not always. Think of the octopus, no shell there.
Their body plan is very distinct, though.
It is. They have a head, a muscular foot for moving around, and a visceral hump where all the internal organs are stored.
And what's the deal with the mantle?
The mantle is a soft, spongy layer of skin that covers the visceral hump. The space between the hump and the mantle is called the mantle cavity, and this cavity is crucial because it contains feather-like gills. These gills handle both respiratory and excretory functions.
And they have a specific feeding organ that sounds like a prop from a horror movie.
The radula, yes. It is a file-like rasping organ right in the mouth. They use it to scrape algae off rocks or tear into prey. It's basically a tongue with rows of tiny teeth on it.
Examples of mollusca.
Pila, the apple snail, Pinctada, the pearl oyster, Sepia, the cuttlefish, Loligo, the squid, and Octopus, the devilfish. Notice the incredible variety there, from a slow snail to a highly intelligent octopus. The intelligence gap there is massive, but the fundamental body plan is exactly the same.
Okay, phylum Echinodermata. spiny-skinned animals.
These are fascinating. They have an endoskeleton made of calcareous ossicles, little calcium plates situated just under the skin, hence the spiny texture. They are all marine, but the absolute biggest exam point here, the one you must not miss, is the symmetry switch.
Right, this is unique to them.
Very unique. The larvae are bilaterally symmetrical. They swim around and have a distinct left and right side, but when they metamorphose into adults and settle down, they become radially symmetrical.
Think of the classic shape of a starfish.
So bilateral, baby, radial adult. Don't mix that up. And their most distinctive functional feature is the water vascular system.
Wait, hold on a second. We talked about a water canal system back in sponges.
Stop right there. This is the biggest trap in the entire chapter. Sponges have the canal system. Echinoderms have the water vascular system. Do not interchange those terms on a test.
How is the water vascular system different mechanically?
It's essentially a complex hydraulic system. It uses water pressure to extend and retract tube feet. It helps in locomotion, capture and transport of food, and respiration. If you've ever seen a time lapse of a starfish prying open a clamshell, it's using the relentless hydraulic power of its tube feet.
Got it. Sponge equals canal, starfish equals vascular. Also, the text says the excretory system is absent.
Correct. They have no specialized excretory system. Waste just diffuses out through the gills and tube feet. Examples to know: Asterias, the starfish; Echinus, the sea urchin; Anodon, the sea lily; Cucumaria, the sea cucumber; and Ophiura, the brittle star.
Finally, the bridge to the chordates. Phylum Hemichordata.
Hemi means half. This group was actually once considered a subphylum of Chordata, but it was kicked out. Now it's just a separate non-chordate phylum. They are worm-like marine animals.
Why the demotion? Why were they kicked out of the Cool Kids Club?
Well, they have a structure in the collar region called a stomacord. Early biologists looked at it under early microscopes and said, aha, a notochord. But modern biology showed it structurally different, so they aren't true chordates.
Their body is cylindrical, divided into a proboscis, a collar, and a trunk.
Right. Think of them as the almost chordates. Examples are balanoglossus and saccoglossus.
All right, take a deep breath, everyone. We have officially ascended the entire ladder of non-chordates. We are now entering the territory of phylum Chordata.
The big leagues. This is our phylum. To be a member of phylum Chordata, you must possess 4 specific characteristics at some stage of your life. It doesn't have to be in adulthood, but you must have them at some point in your development.
Let's list the big 4.
1. A notochord, that stiff dorsal rod we mentioned. 2. A dorsal hollow nerve cord. Note the difference there. Non-chordates have a ventral solid nerve cord. 3. Paired pharyngeal gill slits. Even humans have these as early embryos. And 4. A post-anal tail.
The post-anal tail is interesting because obviously humans don't walk around with tails.
We do as embryos. We usually lose it during development, shrinking into the coccyx or tailbone, but it's there in the fundamental blueprint.
There is a comparison table in the source material that is really worth visualizing for the test. Non-chordates have a ventral solid double nerve cord, and their heart is dorsal, if they even have one. Chordates have a dorsal hollow single nerve cord,
Right.
and our heart is ventral.
Just think about your own bottle. Your spine, the nerve cord, is on your back, which is dorsal. Your heart is in your chest, which is ventral. It's exactly the opposite for an insect.
Now, Chordata is divided into 3 subphyla. The first 2 are collectively called protochordates.
Yes, Eurochordata, also called tunicata, and Cephalochordata. These are exclusively marine animals. They are our primitive cousins.
What's the difference between the 2?
In Eurochordata, the tunicates, the notochord is present only in the larval tail. As adults, they settle down on a rock, lose their tail, and completely lose the notochord. They actually look like little leathery bags that squirt water. Examples are Ascidia, Salpa, and Dolium.
And Cephalochordata.
In Cephalochordata, the notochord extends from the head to the tail and is persistent throughout their entire life. It never goes away. The classic example is Branchiostoma, also called Amphioxus or lancelet. It looks like a small, translucent fish, but without a true, distinct head.
And we have the 3rd subphylum, the one we know best, Vertebrata.
Here is the defining feature. The embryonic notochord is replaced by a cartilaginous or bony vertebral column in the adult, the backbone.
This leads to that famous logic statement you hear in class. All vertebrates are chordates, but not all chordates are vertebrates.
Exactly. Let's parse that out. We are vertebrates. We are also chordates because we had a notochord as embryos. But protochordates, like the lancelet, are chordates that never develop a true backbone. So they are chordates, but absolutely not vertebrates.
Got it. Vertebrates also have a ventral muscular heart with 2, 3, or 4 chambers, kidneys for excretion, and paired appendages, either fins or limbs. Let's break down the vertebrates. First, the jawless ones, agnatha.
Right, so then you look at the jawless ones, the class Stomata. Cycla means circular, stomata means mouth. They have a circular sucking mouth completely without jaws.
These are weird creatures.
Very. They are ectoparasites on some fishes. They latch onto the side of a fish and suck its blood. They look a lot like eels, but they have no scales and no paired fins. Their cranium and vertebral column are cartilaginous, so they are soft, and they have 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits.
They have a really weird life cycle too, don't they?
Very specific. They are marine, but they migrate to freshwater rivers to spawn. This is called anadromous migration. After spawning, the adults die within a few days. The larvae, after metamorphosis, swim all the way back to the ocean.
Examples.
Petromyzon, the lamprey, and Myxine, the hagfish.
Now for the jawed vertebrates, Anaphostomata. We divide these into 2 superclasses, Pisces, which have fins, and Tetrapoda, which have limbs. Let's start with Pisces. We have a battle of 2 classes here, Chondrichthyes versus Ostathes.
Cartilaginous fish versus bony fish. Think shark versus goldfish. This comparison is an absolute goldmine for exam questions.
Let's do a rapid-fire comparison to lock this in. Skeleton.
Chondrichthyes, the sharks. Cartilage. Ostathes, the goldfish. Bone.
Scales.
Chondrichthyes have placoid scales. These are actually microscopic teeth pointing backwards. Shark skin literally feels like rough sandpaper. Ostathes have cycloid or clitonoid scales, smooth and overlapping. For chondrichthyes, gills are separate slits without a cover. You can clearly see the slits right on the side of a shark's head. Ostrichthyes have 4 pairs of gills covered by an operculum. You can't see the actual gills unless you physically lift that flap.
Buoyancy. This is a big one.
Massive difference here. Chondrichthyes have no air bladder. None. They are denser than water. If they stop swimming, they sink to the bottom. They have to swim constantly. Ostrichthyes, however, have an air bladder. This regulates buoyancy. They can stop swimming and just hover in place effortlessly.
Reproduction.
Chondrichthyes have internal fertilization. Many are viviparous, meaning they give birth to live young. Males actually have structures called claspers on their pelvic fins for mating. Ostrichthyes usually have external fertilization, and they are mostly oviparous, laying eggs.
Key examples.
Chondrichthyes, Scolio, the dogfish, Pristis, the sawfish, Torpedo, the electric ray, and Trigon, the stingray. Note the defense mechanisms there: poison stings and electric shocks for Ostisticles. Exocoetus, the flying fish, Hippocampus, the seahorse, and freshwater ones like Labeo, the rohu, and Catla.
Moving to land. Mostly, anyway.
Yeah.
Superclass Tetrapoda. First class, Amphibia.
Amphibia means dual life, like an amphibious vehicle. They can live on land, but they absolutely need water for breeding. Their eggs have no protective shells and would just dry out and die on land.
Features.
Moist skin without scales. Respiration is by gills in the larvae and then lungs and through the moist skin in adults. Their ear is represented by a tympanum, basically a membrane on the surface of the head.
And they have a cloaca. What exactly is that?
It's the all-in-one exit. It is a single common opening for the alimentary canal, the urinary tract, and the reproductive tract. Everything exits through one door.
Heart chambers.
3-chambered. 2 auricles, 1 ventricle. Because there's only 1 ventricle, mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood occurs. They're cold-blooded or poikilotherms.
Examples are Bufo, the toad, Rana, the frog, Hyla, the tree frog, Salamandra, and Ichthyophis, which is a limbless amphibia. Yes, a limbless tetrapod. Confusing, I know. Next, the first true land conquerors, class Reptilia.
Repta means to creep or crawl, so locomotion is by creeping. The big, massive upgrade here is the skin. Dry, cornified skin with epidermal scales or scutes. No more drying out in the sun. They are fully terrestrial.
Heart is usually 3-chambered, like amphibians. But there is a major exception that every student needs to tattoo on their brain.
Crocodiles. Crocodiles have a 4-chambered heart. Do not miss that on the exam.
And snakes and lizards shed their skin.
Yes, as a skin cast. And snakes are highly sensitive to vibrations because they actually lack external ear openings entirely.
Examples: Chelone, the turtle, Naja, the cobra, Bangus, the crate, and Hemidactylus, the common wall lizard. Moving up to class Aves, the birds.
Masters of the air. Forelimbs are modified into wings, they have feathers, but the internal adaptations are just as cool as the external ones. Their bones are pneumatic, meaning they are hollow with air cavities. This drastically reduces weight for flight, and their digestive tract has additional chambers, a crop for storage and a gizzard for grinding food, so that they don't have teeth.
What about the heart?
fully four-chambered, highly efficient. And here is a major physiological shift. Homoeothermous, warm-blooded. They maintain a constant body temperature. This is very energy expensive, but it allows them to be active regardless of the weather outside.
Examples: Corvus the crow, Columba the pigeon, Psittacula the parrot, and Struthio the flightless ostrich. And finally, class Mammalia, the top of the chart.
Unique features that absolutely define us. Number 1, mammary glands. We produce milk to nourish our young. 2, hair on the skin. And 3, pinnae, which are the external ear flaps.
Heart is four-chambered, we are warm-blooded, and reproduction.
Mostly viviparous, giving birth to live young, but again, biology just loves exceptions. Ornithorhynchus, the platypus. It is a mammal, it has hair and makes milk, but it is oviparous, it lays eggs.
A furry, venomous, milk-producing, egg-laying duckbill. Nature is just wonderfully weird.
Indeed it is. Other examples include Macropus, the kangaroo, Pteropus, the flying fox, Balanoptera, the blue whale. Yes, whale is a mammal, not a fish. And of course, humans.
Wow. We made it. We climbed the whole ladder today. From loose cells in a sponge all the way to the complex, warm-blooded systems of a whale.
It really is an incredible journey of increasing complexity. But if you look closely, you see the stepping stones, the shift from cellular to tissue, the invention of the column to give organs space to work, the backbone replacing the notochord.
And for all of you listening, keep those trap concepts in mind. Let's recap them. Number 1, canal system is Porifera. Water vascular system is Echinodermata. 2, the symmetry switch in Echinoderm's bilateral larva, Radial. 3, the hemichordata fake-out stomach cord is not a notochord. 4, the crocodile heart exception, 4 chambers. And 5, the platypus egg exception.
Spot on. If you master those traps and really understand the logic of the sorting hat, you won't just memorize the animal kingdom, you'll genuinely understand it.
Here's a final provocative thought to chew on before we go. We talked about how we share features with the simplest animals. That triploblastic, bilaterally symmetrical body plan, the one that defines us and allows us to move and think. It started way back with the humble flatworms. We are, in a very real structural sense, highly upgraded worms.
That is certainly one way to look at it. Humbling, but anatomically accurate.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and do not let the Latin names scare you.
Keep connecting the dots. See you next time.